How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Athletes Hub. It's been a busy week of football. A few tasty topics, as always, to get into. And joining me, as always, to discuss all of that is Mr. Flexx.
Yes, guys. How we doing? How we keeping?
Yeah, a bit of a new location for you this week, Flexx. I can see you're on the move.
On the move, I am. That is
on
correct.
the move, man.
That is correct.
But listen, as always, guys, a busy week of topics to get into, as always. But I think we've got to start at one place, man. We've got to start with Liverpool and Mr. Arne Slot.
Yes,
listen,
sir.
I mean, I know we've spoken about Liverpool and Mr. Slot over the last couple of weeks, and another loss at home to PSV in the Champions League, and that was obviously followed the loss against Forest at home last weekend when they lost 3-0. And I've got to ask you, Flexx, I mean, are they eventually going to gel, like you mentioned a few weeks ago?
You know what? There's too many good players for it to not work. But at this time, it's a bit of a problem, of course. Like we've seen that they're getting beat by teams at home that they otherwise should be beaten quite comfortably. So I don't know what's actually fallen off for them. It's hard to actually put a finger on it. Maybe it's, the blues from winning the leagues the way they did. And, they just haven't come off that high. And we've seen it happen to teams. They're not the first.
Yeah, they're not the first. But I think with me, the point I was making over the last few months with Liverpool and Arne Slot is that as much as they've been losing games and they find it difficult, I feel like the managers come out at different points and obviously spoken about opposition style of play and how the team's not been able to deal with that. And I think opposition teams have identified their weaknesses because he's come out and said it, right, publicly. And I think they're kind of playing on that because clearly they can't deal with long balls. Clearly they can't deal with balls into the box, and teams have taken advantage of that and they've conceded as a result of it. And I always feel like, yes, he won the league, and I mentioned before, you have to be a very good manager to win the league in your first year. But again, it was Klopp's team pretty much. He came in there, the table was set, the food was on the table. All he did was basically pick up his knife and fork, and he began eating, really. But now when you've got to find the right recipe to make it better, and again, I think managers earn their money in this situation, Flexx. Like, if your team's not playing well, you've got to find a solution for it, whether that's bringing in Robertson, whether that's bringing in Joe Gomez. Managers have to find a solution. This is where they get paid the big money. And I've heard people say, well, I think Jamie Carragher came out and said Liverpool have got to spend in January. But I'm thinking, you spend a lot of money in the summer. Like, your job as a manager, before you go into the transfer market, is to improve what you have and find a solution to the reasons why they're conceding goals. And I think a lot of fans in modern football feel like when things go wrong, you've got to automatically go to the transfer window. But your job as a manager is to improve what you've got. Find a solution. Stop conceding goals. Do you know what I mean? If you have to make big changes, if you've got to drop Salah, drop him. If you've got to drop Isak, drop him. That's what managers do, right? So I just feel like at the moment, listen, I'm enjoying their downfall. I can't lie. You know what I mean? I'm very much enjoying their downfall. And hopefully, the local team on Sunday, West Ham, can do a job on them as well. But listen, I agree. They've got so many good players in their team, but clearly it's not working.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one, and he has to solve the problem very quickly because, the grace of winning the league and then losing as many games as he has done, it won't last long, and we all know how December is like. The games come thick and fast. Folks get injured and these type of things, and if you already have bad form, then it just gets worse, at that particular time. So he's got a job in his hand. Like you said, this is where you earn your money.
Yes, where you earn your money. And I don't know. It's weird. I mean, when you look at Virgil van Dijk, he's obviously come out a lot of the matches and he's been quite outspoken about the problems. He's not shied away from admitting that he's not been at his best this season. But he's been one of those players who is obviously the captain, he's a leader, and has been considered as one of the best defenders, not just in recent years, but in Premier League history. Like, what have you made of his performance so far this season?
It's not even just his performance; it's everyone's performance. And like everyone is down. And we can't point it to one particular player or whatever. It's just gone wrong everywhere. So they all need to lift it up. Did you hear Curtis Jones' interview after the PSV game?
Yeah.
So it's interesting that he would speak that way. But if that's how you're feeling, how come you didn't actually demonstrate your feelings on the pitch? So it goes to show that mentally, you want to do something, but your body just isn't follow through in with your mind. So that's just where they are. Like as individuals and as a club, it's just where they are.
Yeah, I agree, man. It's a weird one because again we kind of spoke about them, and again they had that sort of week prior to the international break where they beat Aston Villa and they beat Real Madrid at home, and then obviously lost to Man City, and it just feels like their biggest problem now is just the goals they're conceding, and that is clearly something which they need to improve on a lot. But like I said before, I mean, I'm enjoying their downfall right now. I can't lie to you. Do you think that Arne Slot will get sacked? Do you think he'll get sacked if he carries on?
You know what? Like managers have definitely been sacked for a lot less, but the truth is that, in my opinion anyway, that he has won the league. You know, if there is a bad season where they finish at least in European football, he keeps his job. You know, but the outlay of money that has been spent this summer, you know, they were hoping to recoup that kind of money by challenging or winning the league again, you know, and or going, you know, and winning the Champions League and things like this. So if none of that happens, you know, it becomes interesting how they balance the books going into the next season. Not that they have to, because they already got players that, of course, you know, should be good by that point. But you know, there's so many different moving parts, so it makes the whole thing a bit tricky. But will he get sacked? I don't know. It's a tricky one. Liverpool are not a sacking club, so I think he has that at least.
Yeah, they're not a sacking club because they've not had to sack a lot of managers, obviously, in recent times. Klopp was amazing there, wasn't he? And obviously, Brendan Rodgers, he left. He almost won the league with Liverpool. So Liverpool, in probably the last sort of decade or so, they've had, you know, obviously a decent manager who's managed to get a lot of success. They've not had to sack, and obviously, Slot won his first league last season, so they've not been in a position to do that. But it's interesting now because if he carries on this run again, if they lose to West Ham on Sunday, I generally feel like if they keep losing, I feel like before the new year, I feel like they could probably change it because you mentioned they want to recoup that money. If you don't make it into Europe and you don't win a cup, and you spend all this money in the summer, then you've almost made a loss. And if Isak doesn't get up and running, then again they've made a loss anyway because the investment that they've put into this player is not being repaid. So I agree.
Do you know what, right? Do you know what I find interesting, right? Is that everyone is talking about Isak. But how is no one talking about Wirtz? They spent a lot of money on that boy as well. Why are we not talking about how much money we spent on Wirtz?
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So I don't think it's fair to like say, oh, Isak is not firing. Wirtz had a whole pre-season. Where is Wirtz? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I think Liverpool the only signing I say has been a hit probably is Ekitike. I think he's one who's come in there, hit the ground running. I think the others have struggled, particularly Kirkes, who played at Bournemouth, so he's used to the league, but he struggled. But I agree, Wirtz has obviously gone under the radar. Isak probably because of the way he left Newcastle and the money they spent, so he's going to get a lot of the attention, right? But I think just the summer they've had, even Frimpong's been injured, he's not really featured this season. There's been a lot of question marks around their transfer business. Again, in the summer, we're thinking, and we spoke about this, if they get Isak, he was like almost the final, I guess, probably the cherry top of the cake, really. If they get him, then they'll win the league. That's obviously not happening. That's obviously not going to happen, I don't think. So it's interesting there. But I don't think anyone's getting away with it. I think Wirtz has had a lot of scrutiny. I think he's not played in the league before, so they're going to give him that bedding in period. But with Isak and Kirkes, they're obviously they're familiar with the league, right? So they're probably expected to, even though they've not had a pre-season, they're expected to come in and hit the ground running there. But yeah, man, it remains to be seen how Liverpool get on. But I guess we've got to move on to a sore subject, and that is Mr. Ruben Amorim. And a 1-0 loss for Man United on Monday night against Everton. And do you know what, Flexx? I was watching a game and I was thinking to myself, like, please, just don't lose the game, because firstly, you know, there's a chance to go fourth. As abysmal as the team has been in the last 3-4 months, right? Somehow they could find themselves in a position where they're fourth in the league. And we've had 2 weeks off, international break. You're playing on Monday after all the other games, and also Everton have gone down to 10 men. But we still couldn't find a solution. We still couldn't get through the game. And this is the big issue, really, because it was a bit reminiscent of the Europa League final, where there's a chance to somehow get Champions League football, win a trophy after an abysmal season. and they didn't turn up in the final. They didn't turn up against Tottenham. And like I've just mentioned, all these different factors here, down to 10, Everton down to 10 men, you can go forth, you've had 2 weeks off on the international break, and they still struggle to break this team down. And again, Everton scored when they had 10 men. And at some point, the penny has to drop with these players, the penny has to drop with the manager, because I'm just thinking, please don't lose, because again, I guess a draw against 10 men is not the best result, I understand it, but you're 5 games unbeaten, you can carry on the unbeaten run, try and get a bit of backbone, a bit of momentum into the team. But just losing the game, Flexx, it felt as if all the questions we've been talking about, all the stuff questions we've been asking about the formation, about the manager not changing it, about Man United not having the right personnel, it felt as if all those questions have come back again, right? And if they don't beat Palace on Sunday, which is a very tough game, by the way, away from home, which they could very well lose, I feel like all these questions will resurface again. And it feels like we took those steps to beat Brighton, to beat Liverpool, win against Sunderland, and obviously get the draws against Tottenham and Forest. And it just felt as if we kind of gone backwards there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean...
Yeah, look, it's a challenging one, right? Because the reality is that against 10 men, he really should have changed up his system to take advantage of the extra man, right? And he failed to do so. I don't know what it is as to why he is so stuck to his formation. No matter what happens in the game, whether they're up, in the middle, or down, they just don't change. And he doesn't have the players. Like, he's playing Dallo at like left wing back and whatnot. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. Luke Shaw is not a left-sided centre back. It doesn't make sense. But when your chairman or co-chairman, whatever you want to call Jim Radcliffe, comes out to say he's got 3 years, so we're going to give him the 3 years, then you are going to see things like this. Do you see what I mean? Because there is no.
It don't make sense though, because I think the statement was in part because he wants the players to realize, listen, this manager's ideally going to go nowhere. He's going to be here for the long haul. So if you either get on board with what he's trying to do, or you won't be there. I think that was the message he was trying to get. And to some extent, it did work a bit, because they went on to beat Sunderland, they beat Liverpool, they beat Brighton, and they got that run going, right? So you felt as if, okay, well, because after the Brentford game a few months ago, we're thinking, well, this guy he's done now. He's not going to survive this. But they somehow managed to get a bit of momentum. And that's what I was saying. As much as it wasn't going to be a good result getting a draw against 10 men, just don't lose the game, because all the things we saw in that game, I mean, Pickford made a couple of saves, but they didn't do anything. We didn't threaten in the second half. Xerxes is not the answer. I don't think he's the type of striker the club needs. Dallo at left wing back, again, it didn't make sense to me. Dorgu, there's still a bit of question marks over his decision making.
What happened to your striker? Where's Sesko?
Well, he's injured, isn't he? He went off injured against Tottenham. And again, he's scored a couple of goals, but he's not hit the ground running. And this is what concerns me. You've got Ahmad going to the African Cup.
This is the question you guys have got to answer, right? Yeah. Why is it that no striker works at United?
I think Ibrahimovic worked, didn't he? I think Ibra worked, didn't he, for a bit?
Because at this point, we can't start to blame personnel, because it seems like no matter who comes in, and it doesn't even matter what position they're playing in, you just don't seem to get the best out of them. Those questions need to be answered.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's been a problem for a long time. I don't think the managers play to the striker's strengths, and that's why you've seen Rasmus Højlund doing okay in Napoli, right? Because as much as he was suffering, Højlund missed a lot of chances last season. He did, and he was void on confidence. That was clear to see. But I felt like even under Ten Hag, he would still score goals. But when Amorim came in, it seemed as if all the supply to Højlund just was not there. They didn't play to his strengths. Of course, he wasn't great, but they didn't really help him out, I don't feel. Sesko's come in, he scored a couple of goals, but you're still kind of trying to think, well, okay, come on, let's give a bit more. But that's what concerns me, Flexx. You've got Xerxes in there now. I don't think he's particularly great. I don't think he's the solution. And Bumo's going to go to the African Cup. You've got Ahmad going to go to the African Cup as well. Yeah. I don't see what other threat the team have got, and that's what's going to concern any United fans.
Hey, don't forget, man, you've got Obi.
Yeah, but I think if Obi, like Mainu, I think if Obi wasn't in the picture, I think he would start again against Everton. He would have come on against Everton. He would have been in the picture against Everton. He didn't, right? So this is where it comes in. You've got a lack of strikers, and you haven't. Obi's, I think, did all right last season when he came on for a bit. Good in pre-season. but the manager is not started with him. I don't think he feels as if he's ready for it. But I think Ahmad going and Mbuma particularly to the African Cup would be a massive blow for the club, and I do feel it's going to be a tough few months for United from January, because again, all the questions we're asking, Flexx, they're going to remain, and it's tricky, to be honest with you. I mean, you can have an FA Cup, get a bit of a cup run, but I don't know. I guess if you lose against Palace on Sunday, then I feel like as if there's all those questions we've been talking about are still going to remain there, and it's going to be difficult for the manager. But at some point, the penny has to drop for him and the team, because if we see a season like we saw last season, this season, Amorim, he can't be there. He can't be there because there's been no progression, right? There's been no progression, and this is why
they say he has all the time in the world now. So
but that's all for the cameras. That's just to send a message, right? That the manager's saying, well, we want to stick with this person. We believe he's our guy. But always comes down to results, Flexx. Always comes down to results. If you're not winning and you're there for 3 years, is there any benefit of you being there? No, because there's no progression.
Mate, I mean, like Liverpool, if you do get rid of your manager, who do you get? This is the question. You know, I saw a quote somewhere where Van Nistelrooy said that he's won, like his little run that he had at United, he did quite well, and so he doesn't understand why they went for Amorim, and now Amorim is not performing, etc. So, what do you maybe go back to, like a Van Nistelrooy?
I mean, it's a valid point, but again, the only former player who got a real chance was probably Solskjaer, and I like Solskjaer. I think he tried to do the right things, he played the right way, but the rules fell off at the end, and the sack was coming, right? I would have, after Ten Hag, I would have gave Van Nistelrooy the job until the end of the season, because as you remember, Amorim didn't want to join midway through last season, right? So the logical approach would have been, okay, let's keep Van Nistelrooy. He's at a club. He's worked with the players with Ten Hag. He knows, obviously, United legend. Keep him in there to the end of the season. Then let's go to Amorim. See how Van Nistelrooy's performed. If you feel like, okay, we can keep him on, fair enough. If not, then we go to Amorim, who was willing to take the job. So again, it's decisions like that, and it goes back to what I was saying about decision making at the football club, and it not making sense a lot of the time. It's not making sense. I want Amorim to do well, but at the same time, games like Everton, where you have to win against 10 men, games like the Europa League final, where you're meant to turn up, this is where something's meant to change, and we're still asking the same questions that we did a year ago, right? So there's got to be a change there at some point.
Let's see.
Let's see. Yeah, we'll see. But I want to talk about something else that happened in the game. I don't know if you saw the slap from Garner Gay onto Michael Key. I mean, what did you make of that slap?
Yeah, it's crazy, right? So I didn't even realize that the game was even on. And so I was on social media, and then I saw the slap. I was like, oh, crap, these lot are playing. So then I tuned in, and at that point, I think it was already 1-0 Everton. So I was waiting for the replays of that incident. And then I just thought, wow, this guy's nuts. Like, you don't go and attack your own player. Like, that's absolutely crazy. It made me feel like there must be a backstory to this or something, right? Because you don't just blow your top and go and attack your own player. You know what I mean? Like, it was like very reminiscent of what happened in Newcastle, with Kieran Dyer and Boyer, and it's just like, this is absolutely nuts. I mean, I did see that Beto set up like a little boxing ring at the training camp.
I saw that,
in there. You know what I mean? But would you say that that is the type of passion that you want to see? I mean, bar the slap, but you want the players to show that they genuinely care for the results, care for the moments, care for, what's going on. Because the Man United players, they should have just had a Royal Rumble amongst themselves based on that performance after the game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like you know what it shows to me? Listen, that the slap is, look, I mean, I don't slapping your own teammate, even Elite Boy or Kieran Dyer situation, going to blows, I think that shouldn't happen on any football pitch. It's violent conduct, isn't it? But it shows you that the players demand off each other, and there's a bit of passion. And we always ask players nowadays, particularly modern footballers, like, is there enough passion there? When things are going wrong, who's pulling each other? Who's demanding more of your opponent? Of course, you don't condone the slap, but it shows that even at Everton, they've got standards there, right? And they hold you accountable for a simple misplaced pass, so we're not tracking back. And that's what we're asking for at these other clubs, right? So you don't expect to see players slapping each other, especially from the same team. But even David Moyes come out and said that he likes his players fighting, because it shows that they care about the situation, they demand more, there's standards there. And that's what other clubs, especially United, have been crying out for. Maybe they do it behind closed doors, I don't know, I'm not there. But listen, Ghana Gay being an African, you know what Africa's like. We've got very short fuses, and you know what I mean. Michael Keane probably said something to me that he didn't like, and he thought, okay, listen, you can have words, that's fine, but to slap someone in the face, especially your own teammate, I thought that was
It's crazy work,
crazy, man. So,
crazy work.
but yeah, I think it was kind of weird because
No
when
way.
you watch it, I don't think everyone knew what was going on. They just saw the referee give a red card, but they saw him being pulled away from Michael Keane, but nobody really knew what happened there, right? But I don't know. People are saying that it should have been a red card because it's just a little slap. Do you think that if it's violent conduct, regardless, it should be a red card?
Well, you know what? The rules doesn't say if it's your teammate, it's okay. The rules say
Yeah.
violent conduct, red card. So it's, if the referee was correct to send him off, like that was what was supposed to happen. It doesn't say if you attack your own teammate, then it's a different situation. So for me, I feel like putting hands on anybody, whether it's your teammate or the opposition, it's not right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you have that frustration, wait till you get to the changing room, you know what I mean, and then do whatever it is that you want to do, but you don't do it on the pitch, because now you've gone and done that. Now, if your team go and lose, typically what should have happened is United should have smashed them 3 or 4-1. That's what should have happened. You know what I mean? And Ghana Gay would have gotten a probably like 2 weeks wage fine and whatnot, blah blah blah. It gets swept under the carpet a little bit only because they've won the game, but really they should have lost the game. And he put his team in great jeopardy, by his actions. So for me, the red card was just, because violent conduct is violent conduct, and the club should deal with that behind closed doors, with a fine and etc. Because they should make an example out of him at the club to say, like, we've got standards, and one of those standards is you don't go and slap your own teammate. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I agree, man. And you're right. United should have put him to the sword, but the crazy thing was that they even scored after they had 10 men, and that was what made it even worse, really.
Great goal as well.
Yeah, Frisbee Hill, a very, very good goal. But again, it kind of showed you, like, again, they were very organised, very difficult to play against. And maybe he might argue and said that he slapped some sense into the team, really. And they got their act together after that, to be honest with you. But no, I agree. I think you've got to set an example. I'm sure he would have been dealt with the club. I know he's apologised, and obviously you mentioned the clip as well, so I'm sure that was all dealt with. But to finish off, though, I want to talk about Eberechi Eze and how great he's been this week. I know he scored a hat-trick against Tottenham on Sunday, and obviously was very, very good along with Declan Rice against Bayern Munich. What have you made of Eberechi Eze so far since he's joined Arsenal?
The reality is, look, quality is quality, so it wouldn't even have mattered where he went, because we saw what he was doing at Crystal Palace. Do you see what I mean? Like like Elise, we've seen what they'd be doing at a club where, it should be much more of a challenge to perform at the standard that they were performing at. So when you go to a place now where you've got like 11, let's say 10 other quality players around you, you're just gonna go from strength to strength, like quite literally. You've got the best coaches, you've got the best facilities, and you've got some of the world's best players playing with you. Like, mate, you're only going to flourish, and you're only going to be more consistent. We were seeing that, he was having a bit of an issue at the start of the season because they were playing him out left, like an inside forward type thing. And now we've seen that playing as the 10, this is what the boy does. Like, he's just resumed normal service, if you ask me. So, look, man, that's a guy who should be considered to be on the plane for England as well, for sure. I feel like that's a very good option to have in the 10 position or out left as well. So, look, man, even not just about Eze, Arsenal as a club at this time, mate, it's frightening. Like watching that Bayern game, I actually sat there and I thought, hey, man, they might actually do it. They might.
What do you think they could win both the Premier League and Champions League then?
Dude, it's not out the realms of possibility, because they have, at the bare minimum, 8 out of 10, they're talking about quality players in every position. Like, we're talking about the centre-backs. It doesn't matter who comes in. They give an 8 out of 10. The left back, the right back, 8 out of 10. The wingers, 8 out of 10. Like, tell me a position besides centre forward where it's an 8 out of 10. Like, everywhere Doesn't matter who, like Madueke, who we was all taking the mick out of, you know what I'm saying, comes back off injury, comes on and gets a goal. Like,
yeah,
you know,
it's right. He's right. It's like everything is falling into place for Arsenal. And I said it to somebody else who's an Arsenal fan. I said to him, and there was a bit of concern about Gabriel being injured and obviously the striker's not been available. But I said to him, if you look at a lot of the important goals that have been scored this season, right, it's not come from it. Even when the centre forwards have played, the most important goals have come from plays in other positions, whether it's Martinelli against City, whether it's Moreno who come on to score against Newcastle, and obviously Gabriel scored, whether it was Declan Rice scoring against Burnley. And even going back a couple of seasons ago where they almost won the league, right? They didn't have their recognised centre forward. They had Havertz in there, and he did the job for a bit.
Yep.
So it's not like the centre forward has been hampering Arsenal's chances to win the Premier League. I feel like they've got so many different options, and they've got players who can produce from so many different positions, right? And again, Eze scored a hat trick against in the North London derby as a number 10. So they've got so many different options to call upon, right? And it's not the fact that, okay, the centre forward being there will obviously increase, you know, their goal scoring capabilities for sure. But again, I don't look at the striker and feel as if, okay, that's what's going to hold them back from winning the league, because they've not had one for years and they've done really, really well. Right, they got to semi-final last year of the Champions League, almost won the league a couple of seasons ago. So Arteta's finding, and he's done a really good job to build this powerhouse of a squad so far to compete on all fronts, right? And again, that Bayern team is a very good team, by the way. Like first half, they were very good. But Arsenal switched on second half, as you mentioned. Madueke coming on, get a goal. Declan Rice was outstanding as well. So, you know, he was brilliant in that game, Declan
Rice. Like coming back. Look, like I said, Declan Rice, you know, he is what he is. You know what I mean? Like, again, that's another one. 8 out of 10 every week. Ever since he's joined, by the way. I can't say I've seen him have bad game. You know, if there was a bad game, it was the likes of Martinelli. He comes on and he gets a goal as well. You know, so together, you know what I mean? Like it's just all in the right place. And Moreno, who's a flipping defensive midfielder, they throw him up front and he gets more goals than the striker that they've signed. It makes no bloody sense. Maybe it is falling into place, mate. But you know what? If they bottle it again, I would absolutely love it. I would absolutely love it if they find a way to just go and bottle this one. Because right now, the form they're on is frightening. I think it's Sunday we play them, Chelsea.
Yeah.
And you know what? We're on a bit of a good run as well. So this is going to be a very, very tasty game. We haven't had the best run of form against Arsenal over the last few years. And that is my only worry. But, you know, we haven't also had the best of games against Barcelona. You know, and I know they had a red card early on and things like that, but we still got the job done. If we're able to keep 11 players on the pitch, you know, and, you know, our goalkeeper has a decent enough game because he is the casualty that we carry every week. If he has a decent enough game, the likes of Esteval, Caicedo, you know, Pedro, Neto, João Pedro, you know, we've got players there that can get a job done. You know, Reece James and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to this, but I wouldn't be upset with a draw. I wouldn't be upset with a draw because then it keeps us all in there. You see what I mean? And then we can look for the likes of the lesser teams to maybe cause upsets as they do throughout a calendar year. You know, so mate, I mean, what's your score prediction for that game?
But yeah, I think I agree. I think Chelsea. I think this would be Arsenal's biggest test. I think Chelsea have been quite very good recently. You look at the game against Liverpool where they come back to win that game 2-1 last minute and obviously beating Barcelona in midweek. I think Chelsea, they're starting to kind of, particularly the wingers, they're starting. Even Esteval, who's been a very, very good player, right? They're starting to kind of get something together, and I think this will be a very big test for Arsenal. I think it might be a draw. You know, I'm going for 1-1 draw. I think Chelsea's form will carry them into the game, but I think Arsenal will be difficult to beat. I wouldn't want to play against Arsenal. I mean, Arsenal very rarely lose games, man. So I don't think Chelsea will beat Arsenal, but at the same time, I think Chelsea will give them a good game, and I think that will probably end as a draw, to be honest, which you said you wouldn't be like unhappy with. So I think that would probably be the final score, to be fair. But listen, Flexx, it's been great to chat as always.
As always.
The latest football conversation. And guys, again, let us know in the comments as always. What do you agree? What do you think about our comments today? Do you think Arne Slot will get sacked? What's your thoughts again on Ruben Amorim and the problems at Man United? What's your thoughts on Arsenal in the league? Can they do it? And let us know as well, guys, your score predictions for Sunday. Chelsea against Arsenal at Stamford Bridge, 4:30. Let us know your score predictions in the comment section. And as always, guys, like and subscribe as always. You can find us here every week on YouTube. But again, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X as well. And keep up to date with all the latest content from the Athletes Hub. But yeah, Flexx, I'll leave you to it. I know you're on a run now. So.
Yeah, I'm on the run, mate.
You're on the run now, so won't hold you any longer, man. But as always, it's been great to chat, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Yes, sir. Take care.
And you too, man.